We went all the way to Mexico to shadow Eduardo. Now, shadowing means to follow someone throughout the day to see what are the kinds of things they're doing, and hopefully as a student or practitioner of PR, you get to shadow other practitioners or leaders in PR. Now, taking a look at Eduardo's everyday job scope and his job profile, what we saw is that he does a variety of things and give us a fairly good idea of what a PR practitioner really does. What we saw is that he performs a number of different functions, and what I'm going to do here now is to spell out for you these different activities that a PR professional participates in. Now, sometimes a PR job description can be tied to one of these specific functions or more than one of these specific functions. At other times, a practitioner performs multiple roles together. So the first kind of function I'm going to talk to you about is research. As we discussed in the last lecture, gathering data, determining the scope of your problem, identifying your publics, determining the attitudes and behaviors of these publics. These are the kinds of things that a researcher does. So a researcher really needs to develop a good sense of what the problem is, develop objectives for research, and then go about gathering and putting together data, and then come up with conclusions on the basis of that data. That data then becomes the guideline for objectives and strategy that we will cover later in this course. Another kind of PR function is the publicity function of PR. So when you're carrying out the publicity function, you're crafting planned messages and disseminating them through planned media outlets. So the publicity function really involves quite a bit of writing, but also development of strategies for placing those stories onto various media. Another kind of PR function is media relations, where you're going to collaborate with journalists, bloggers, influencers, etc. in seeking publicity for your concept, idea, or product. Remember the time when Eduardo called up a few journalists to see if they were going to place the story, and also to ask them what else they needed in the form of clarifications. So that's exactly an example of media relations activities. You will find that PR practitioners spend quite a bit of time building these kinds of relationships with the media, taking the media out for informal meetings, meeting up with media during different settings, and also responding to media needs. Now, for a good PR practitioner that wants to be effective, it's important to anticipate the media needs, and this can be done through effective media relations, so that when you're putting out a press release, you know the media cycle and you're likely to succeed in terms of placing that story. Another kind of PR activity is employee relations, which involves communicating with employees within the organization. Now, often we think of PR as outwardly directed toward members that are outside of the organization. But employees actually constitute or make up a very important audience for the organization. And employee relations activities might include things like producing newsletters, bulletin boards, sending out and communicating via emails in order to ensure that you're communicating with your employees' policies and programs, but also in order to ensure that you're actually cultivating a culture among your employees. Community relations is public relations activity that is directed at developing relationships and maintaining these relationships with communities. So carrying out planned communication activities in the community makes up community relations. So to have effective community relations means that you invest time into understanding the community, into understanding what are the key issues and problems in the community, and in collaborating with the community in developing solutions. Now, issues management is one of the fairly popular areas of PR that's also in high demand. Issues make up the key elements in the life of an organization that become salient. So an issue is something that impacts the organization because it has an opportunity actually to influence organizational effects and effectiveness. So identifying, tracking and managing the key issues that are of public concern and concern to the organization becomes the job of issues management. So really in the issues management function, you first identify what the key issues are, and then you go about tracking the issues, seeing how they are developing, and also then develop plans for responding to the various issues during various parts of your PR cycle. Now industry relations relates to developing and maintaining relationships with trade associations and with the umbrella industry of the organization. For instance, many pharmaceutical companies might maintain industry association with a larger global pharmaceutical association. So that's an example of industry relations. Investor relations is yet another category of PR, which involves creating and maintaining relationships with investors and maintaining investor confidence and trust in your organization, and making sure that you build good relationships with the overall financial community. Also referred to as stakeholder relations or financial relations, investor relations really focus on maintaining the relationships with key investors. Government relations relate to governments as key stakeholders of the organization. Now developing relationships with government agencies, with regulators and legislatures on behalf of the organization is a really important part of organizational life. Public affairs refers to that component of PR that seeks to impact or influence public policy. So in the public affairs function, you develop communication solutions for effective involvement with the public policy process, thus being able to shape public policies and helping the organization respond to public expectations around the policy environment. Now marketing communication is a function that sometimes can and does fall under PR, although there's quite a bit of debate in terms of the relationship between PR and marketing. In organizations that have integrated strategies, marketing communication becomes part of PR's overall plan, and marketing communication activities are directed at marketing a product or service or idea through a variety of communication techniques, including publicity, advertising, promotion, sales, collateral materials, trade shows, direct mail and special events. Now a public relations approach to marketing communication emphasizes that these different functions actually need to be integrated. So you're actually making sure that your overall communication plan actually is cohesive. Special events are the planning and execution of events such as meetings, such as press conferences, such as shows around a person, product or organization in order to create attention, in order to draw the interest of your audience, and in order to foster opportunities for conversation. So there are events like listening groups, there are events like participatory dialogues, there are events like Meet the CEO. So these events are meant for creating avenues for the organization to engage in two-way symmetrical communication with key stakeholders. Now counseling is one of the more advanced PR functions, which involves offering advice to management regarding policies, relationships and communication. These are the kinds of things we typically consider in the strategic elements. So this particular function relates more to a strategic function, and this is a higher order PR function. Now all of these components come together in forming the overall PR function of the organization. Now for the rest of this course, we will look at the ways in which these components come together towards serving the strategic management of relationships between organizations and their publics. So what we did today is we looked at Eduardo's profile, and then we engaged with that profile to look at the different functions that the PR department performs.